got a funky, funky rhyme with a funky style. I got a funky, funky rhyme with a funky, funky style. I got a funky rhyme with a funky, funky style. I got a funky rhyme with a funky, funky style. Steve Rickety Rocket was my favorite cartoon. After marriage, the honeymoon. I'll be damned, gag me with the spoon. Who loves Papa? Alice the Goon.
Longer, with the exception of us, I'd like to say, does anything get signed based off solely talent? There has to be something behind it before this major label is going to have pouring thousands, millions of dollars into breaking you or making you popular. So that's something you guys gotta like keep in mind and moving in this day and age. You need some kind of momentum. This is where Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all of that comes into play. The beauty in those is the numbers. All right, when you load something up on YouTube, that little number on the side, that's basically a stat sheet of how many people are even interested in pressing the on button to take a look at what it is that you're either playing or showing from a visual standpoint. So collect your stats, and it'll give you a tremendous amount of leverage when you sit with any one of us. You know, right now you've got an artist like Mac Miller who has no deal, and just the amount of he's selling out shows, he's selling out big venues, and right now he's one of the most sought after artists. He's not stressing the deal. Okay, and that's a tremendous amount of leverage that you have in dealing with folks when you finally come and sit down. A lot of that has to do with the momentum, the fan base. He has a core fan base, so it's easier for the label, so to speak. So something to keep in mind moving forward.
Would you guys say that's like the new kind of wave of thinking, is that independent artists should kind of come as a package deal, already have their movement moving before they even approach a label and look for that type of support?
I wholeheartedly believe that major labels are not built to break a new artist. Okay, not at all. They're built to add fire to the flame. They're built to put you at Best Buy. They're built to put you on this really high level. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, you're gonna need money to go to radio. So the majors are good for that. In terms of for new artists, yeah, that's the template. I mean, even myself, I have an artist that I just recently signed. His name is STS, and I don't trust the labels enough to make the rounds and really say, here you go, you can have them, let's see what we can do. I'd rather build that momentum up on myself, on my own. I have enough resources, he's that good, and now I just have to build those stats up. So actually, I should be sitting with you guys when it comes to that particular artist, you know, so. Yeah, that's the template. You have to be self-sufficient, and you got to come in strapped.
One thing to remember is that a record company is impartial to the creative progression of music. You have to understand that. I think one of the biggest problems that people make is they have a misconception of what a record company does, because a lot of what you guys know is based on what you read in a magazine or what you see on a video. You believe that a person walks in the door, he's hot, and A&R sees him, they sign him, he gets a gang of money, and the record company does everything. That's really not the way it works. The record company isn't even in the business of making something creative. They're in the business of selling records. So how creative or what direction and all of those things that you really want or need to sell records, you are really responsible for creating that. And that's the difference between someone who gets a deal and someone who doesn't. Because you can have an artist who maybe has a lot of momentum, but there's nothing going on as far as what the artist is direction-wise. And then you might have an artist who his whole direction, his game plan, and everything is mapped out. And they'll invest in that artist before they would invest in the other one. So you have to understand, when you walk into a record company, keep in mind that your whole presentation has to be complete. You have to be what you say you are. If you're MC this or that, whatever you say you are conceptually, that has to translate musically, it has to translate visually, and it has to translate in the way you present yourself on stage and how you present yourself in interviews. All of those things are equally important, because a record company makes its money by marketing you in all of those different avenues and facets.
I always use the baseball analogy. We're RBI men, these major record labels, right? We'll knock you in. We'll get you from third to home. We'll get you from second base to home. But getting on base, getting to second base, you gotta hit that leadoff single, and you gotta steal second base. When you're on second base, we'll start noticing you, and we'll consider. If you're on third base, then we'll definitely sign you.
That's an excellent analogy.
That was a good analogy.
That was a great one. What would you guys say is the biggest asset to these unsigned artists sitting in the audience today? Like, what would you consider the biggest asset in actually getting your attention? What would they have to do?
I think it varies. For me, it's a cosign never hurt. It's so valuable to have somebody that you know that knows me say, you need to listen to this, this is really good. That goes a long way because, you know, for somebody who, if I'm looking for an artist and the talent doesn't match the buzz and the momentum, you know, it's going to be harder for me to try to push that through. A cosign for me just works wonders. Another valuable asset, not for nothing in this day and age, the internet. You know, this is a do-it-yourself era. I mean, it's there for you. It's there for you to just, you know, really take full advantage of it. You know, it's how you go about it and how you approach it. So the internet, I like to think, is the most valuable. If anybody wants to add on to that.
I just want to second when he said I'm with him a cosign, and then once I get that cosign, I'm going straight to the internet. So the internet, I mean the cosign, the internet is definitely the way to go.
Yeah, I think, you know, go ahead.
Oh, okay, no, I would say technology in general, because with that comes the internet, but it also, you can record an album for very little money. You can make a record for very little money. You can shoot a video for very little money, and that's so important now. And then the other thing that's so valuable, especially in urban music, and this is a very new thing, is touring. Unsigned rappers can get on tours now, and that never happened before. You know what I mean? You look at, again, like the Mac Miller example, the Odd Future, you know what I mean? You know, like there's a guy by the name of Johnny Shice who's really creating these platforms for like these emerging artists who don't have a deal, who maybe the labels aren't even looking at, but they have something there, and these people are getting toured. And that's an amazing thing, because it puts you in front of people in different demographics. And some of these kids, like the Odd Futures and the Mac Mill, I mean, they're making money on these tours. It's not just you know, let me just show myself off. Like, they're getting paid.
Yeah, you know, the one thing I was going to say is that you guys have an advantage. You know, you're at a disadvantage because you're starting out and you may not have the relationships, or you may not have the end to get into a record company at this point, but you also have an advantage because you have the full freedom to promote and market yourself and use any and every resource that you have to make yourself known. And that sometimes can be limited when you sign to a certain label, where they may try to restrict how you market and promote yourself. So at this time, it's like it's open season, just go all out. Every and anything that you think you need to do to promote and market yourself, you should be trying to do it. As long as it translates into something positive and progressive where people feel they can make money from you, then that's what you should be doing.
Okay. I think also, like, a lot of independent artists wonder how to find you guys. Like, how do we even get to an A&R? How do we even get to a label? There was days when there was books published and you just sent your demo and hoping that you were going to get a call back. What's the best way for an independent artist to reach one of you guys? If they weren't, like, you know, here today, what's the best resource?
Me personally, the best way to answer that question is to say you can't really find them. They're going to find you. You know, if you're doing all the things that we're talking about doing, if you're creating a movement and a momentum, we're already hearing about it. Because we have people in every region, whether it's a DJ or it's a marketing guy or a promotional guy, that's already calling us. Yo, you need to check this guy out. He's down here, he's doing big things. Hey, you need to come down here and see this guy perform. This guy's packing arenas, and he's an unsigned artist. Hey, you need this. You know, there's already people calling us in every region. So the important thing is to put the package and get your movement going. And then all of those other things are going to actually fall into place. You know, anybody?
Yeah. It's kind of interesting nowadays. A lot of stuff I find out about, like, sometimes my intern knows before I do, because he's young and he's just on the internet 24 hours a day. There was a rock band that's blowing up now that my little cousin told me about. I didn't know. He was like, oh, you know, Cage the Elephant. I was like, no. And then I went online, and there wasn't a lot online, but I noticed they had a tour, so I went to one of the shows. It was packed. Every kid knew every song to every word. I was like, okay, obviously there's something going on here. So yeah, if you're doing what you're supposed to do, we're gonna find out about you from somebody.
And you were talking about tours, and I think everybody even wants to know how do they even get on a show, because at this point usually it seems like you can only do showcases, things like that to, you know, test your skills. But a lot of these artists that do have, like, an online movement, they are trying to figure out how can I get on, you know, one of these college tours or, you know, open up for somebody? How is that even possible?
I mean, there's so many different ways. If the first thing is, you know, find out what's going on locally and try to use your connections, if it's a local thing, to get with whatever local artists are being presented. The second thing is, if you have your stats up, most of these tours are sponsored by brands. Very easy to get in touch with people from those brands. And if you're calling, if Hennessy or Nike is spending money on sponsoring a tour, once you get, you know, the marketing rep from that company on, and you give them stats like, I have this many downloads, I have this many Twitter followers, or this, they're going to want to put you on, they're going to insist that you be on that tour, because that means more awareness for their brand, and that means their tour is going to be more successful. So that's like the best way to backdoor your way into a tour, is find out who the brands are. And then the third thing is, there's always a contact at these venues. And there's always a promoter there. Find that person out. Same thing. Look at my stats. I'm going to bring more people to your venue. I'm going to bring more people to the thing that you're promoting. I'm going to make you more successful. You'd be stupid not to have. I mean, don't say that, but that's...
Well, I mean, but also, you know, also be prepared to do the show for free. I mean, that's the biggest thing. Walk in there, sell yourself, and say, hey, man, I don't want no money. I just want to get on stage and perform. Because what's going to happen is, after doing enough of those shows for free, you create so much of an audience and a momentum for yourself that they've got to pay you the second time around. So you have to be willing to invest in your whole movement and the direction and things, you know, to get you to where you need to be. And it's a constant and consistent investment. The investment in yourself never stops. So, you know, I mean, I don't know any other way to say it. Be prepared to do it for free. Like Ross, when I remember when Ross first started, man, yeah, Ross went hard. Ross was going hard. Ross was giving verses away. He was showing up, yo, put me on the show. When he was running around with Trick Daddy and Trina and them, he was opening up doing shows for free. You know, people don't even realize Ross been around for 10 years before anyone ever heard of Rick Ross. He got a record with Trina where he looked like Tony Dofat. Like, it was crazy. So, like, you know what I'm saying? But that's what you got to do. You have to be willing to go out there.
We're in the era of giving stuff away, whether it's your performance, your mixtape. This is what's becoming the music business now. Before you can ask people to pay to see you perform or pay for your music, you have to give away content first.
Yeah.
And even once Ross got his deal, he was still doing stuff for free. For DJs, for whoever somebody wanted to do a verse with him, whatever, you're going to do it just to get out there, just to get the movement going. You know, we still give mixtapes and stuff like that away for free. We still do it to this day. So I mean, that's just part of the game, yeah.
Even like the biggest stars in the world, what's his name? His name just escaped me. The big singer, John Mayer. John Mayer wanted to sort of expand his crowd, so he did a show at the A-Life Courtyard for free. John Mayer is one of the biggest artists in the world, but he kind of wanted to switch things up and wanted a new demographic to appreciate what he's about. So he did a Just Blaze DJ for free at the A-Life Courtyard, and he played for free. I mean, this is a guy who makes millions of dollars touring. So.
Hold up.